Yesterday we started with data types. We have seen primitive data types. So from this slide, we have finished with integer, real or float, character, boolean. Void is, if data type is not mentioned, it is called void. And pointers we are going to see after T1. So let's start with derived data types. For every data type, we have seen how to specify it, specifications, then operations that we can perform, and its implementation, how that particular data type is stored in main memory. We have discussed about integer, float, boolean, char. So data aggregate and type construct. The data aggregate means arrays, enum, subrange, structure or record, variant records or union. These are derived from basic data types. This is a definition of data object. In very first slide, we have defined data object as memory location assigned to that particular variable. It can be a single cell or it can be a group of cells. A data object that is constructed as an aggregate of other data objects called components is termed as data structure or structured data object. So if, for example, array is constructed from integers or characters or float array, integer array, char array. So a data object which is constructed as an aggregate or collection of other data objects, which is called data structure or structured data object. Examples can be arrays, subrange, and enumeration. Yesterday we have just started with arrays, so I'll cover it again. Enumeration. Have you heard about enumeration data type or enum? C supports enumeration data type.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it? Enum.
Ma'am, like symbolic constants, we can assign some value.
Yes, it's correct. For example, it is like instead of using 0 and 1 for true and false. So in enum, I can define 0 is equal to false and 1 is equal to true. What is the motivation for enumeration data type is readability. It improves readability of a programmer. That is, instead of just making what is a zero is false or true, or if you assign colors, or if months, for example, current month is 10th month. So instead of remembering 10th means October, if we assign month is equal to October, it is more readable. This is also known as user defined ordinal type. Ordinal means order is very important and it is user defined. So we are going to define the data type. For example, here enum is a keyword in C language. Color is my variable name, and I am assigning these three colors RGB: red, blue, green. So internally, red is considered as 0, blue is considered as 1, and green is considered as 2. Internally, it will assign constant values starting from 0 and in increment order to each of the element of enumeration. The operations we can perform on enumeration, so it can be used as array subscript instead of A of I. So you can say A of red or A of October. So because internally that red or October is assigned some integer values. So arrays required integer values as subscript. You can use it as a array subscript, loop variable, or case selector, case red colon, case blue colon. So red is nothing but 0 internally. So it can be used as case selector or loop variable while color is not equal to red. Perform this. You can check whether less than, greater than, equal to with relational operator. Ordinal operations like successor, predecessor, next element, previous element, like this. So these all are the operations you can perform on enumeration variables. Implementation, it is ordered list with distinct values. For example, here I cannot assign or array cannot come two times in one enum, because once it is assigned a 0, it cannot take another value. So distinct values, it is ordered list. Order is important. If you keep red at the end, blue, green and red, then blue will be 0, green will be 1 and red will be 2. So value depends upon its position or order. So that's why order is important. Storage representation is straightforward. It is stored as integer only. Value of enumerated sequence is represented by one of the integer in sequence 0 to 1 to 3. These are default values. You can reset or override these values by new values using assignment operator. For example, if I want to create enumeration for student and their roll number, so ABC is 25, XYZ is 30, and then AAA and BBB. Means here I haven't assigned any default value. So it will take 25 value for ABC, 30 value for XYZ, and next values that I have not specified incremented by 1. For example, AAA will be 31 and BBB will be 32. It is not possible to create A, B, C without any value, X, Y, Z without any value, and assign value to A, B, B, B. So last values can take incremental values from their previous values. So you can override these values, or by default it is 0, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. As we have seen, ordinal operations, ordinal ORDX will map with X with its integer position in the enumeration. So ordinal sun will be equal to 7. If we have started from Monday, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you want to check what is the value for sun, ordinal function will return that position or its value. Successor will be the next element. For example, if it is in this case red, green, blue. Sorry. Red, blue, green. So successor of red is blue. It will return blue. Successor for blue is green. For green, there is no successor, so it will be an error. So an error occur if X is the last name. Predecessor will return previous element in the enumeration. And if X is the first name, then predecessor function pred X will return error. Now about the arrays. Arrays are nothing but sequence of elements. We have studied arrays in C, C++, Java. Yesterday we started with array discussion. Arrays are mainly used instead of creating so many integer variables. It's better to create a one variable with. So memory location is same. If I want to have an array of 10 elements, instead of creating A1, A2, A3, A4, 10 different variables and managing those variables, it is always better to manage one single variable A with 10 locations. So it is efficient access and storage allocation strategy. It is indexed by integer or enumeration. So you can use index or enum as index, integer or enum as index. Array layout is elements appears in consecutive locations in the underlying machine. In array, each element is stored sequentially, consecutive locations. Elements can be computed in two parts, pre-computation and runtime computation. So pre-computation is compile time. You will get memory location allocated for an array like in C and C++. And runtime memory allocation is in Java. We use new keyword, int a of is equal to new int 5. Array of arrays is multi-dimensional array, which can have row major or column major layout. Arrays, when we create an array, it has the attributes. Let me start the camera here. I'm explaining with respect to C language. Integer a of 5. So what are the attributes? A is a variable name. How many memory is allocated? How many bytes will be allocated for A? It is integer array. of size 5. So how many bytes will be allocated for A?
6. 20.
10.
10.
We try 2 bytes in C language. So for 5 values, I get 5 into 2, 10 bytes. 10 bytes will be allocated for A. This is the location sorry, to subscript or array index. And assume that, suppose this is my starting location. First element is stored at position 100. What is the position of first element? Next element? 102. 102. These are the locations. Plus 2 bytes. The total memory allocated for A is 10 bytes. A is of type integer, and suppose the values are 11, 22, 33, 44, any value. So when you talk about A in this case, you are talking about these values, you are talking about these locations, and you are talking about these indices. There are 3 elements or 3 attributes of an array. Number of components, that is array size, here it is 5. Data type of each component, which is integer, and subscript. For here, as it is a single dimensional array, subscript is 1. Means either 0, 1, 2, 3. If we have two-dimensional array, then we need 2 subscripts, A of I and J. So how many subscripts? Here in this case, 1. So subscript is also an attribute. Operation that we can perform on array is subscripting, means access an element from the array A of I, or A of I we can assign a new value, or a variable you can assign value of array. Create and destroy array. So in this case, how to create and destroy array? Arrays in C and C++, these are static arrays created with variable name and destroyed by the system itself. In Java, there is a garbage collector to release the memory if array is not used. Assignment to component of an array and arithmetic operations on pair of arrays on same size. If you have same size arrays, then you can perform addition, subtraction, multiplication on pair of arrays. This array is stored in memory. How array is stored in memory? So this is the name of array. Initially, memory stores the description of array. Some part is allocated for description, means name of array, lower bound, lower index, and upper index. If it is array of size 10, name of array is ARR, lower index is 0, upper bound is 9, data type is integer, and size of each component is 2 bytes. So this is the information about the array, which is known as metadata, data for data, or description. It is called descriptor, it is not for. This descriptor, which describes the array. And then storage representation of array. Each array element is stored sequentially at 0, 1, 2, 3, and 2 bytes are allocated for each element. Array layout. The layout of an array determines machine address of an A of I related to the address of first element. So just look at the board and tell me how to find address of each element here. Now addresses are given. Can you write an equation? Here you know what is width. Width means size of each element, which is 2 bytes. Base address. Base address is starting location of an array, which is 100. You know these two things, using these two things, and you know I is index. So you know width, because in a it is integer variable, so size of integer is 2 bytes. That is width. Base address is 100, suppose it is given, or the variable denotes base address, and I is index. For example, index is 2. I want to get output as 104. So what should be the equation? Address of that element. How to get address of that particular element? Base address plus index into width. So if index is say 2, here it is 2 bytes, multiplied by width is 2, which is 4 width. So it will be 4 plus width. We are getting 104, which is location of second element. Try to get the location of fourth element. If it is 4, 4 into 2 is 8, 100 plus 8 is 108. So with this equation, location base plus width, and it should be note down this equation, base plus I, which is index, into width, to get the location of each element. Any queries about this equation? If you didn't have any queries, I'll ask you a query. You got it? How array elements are stored in main memory?
Yes, ma'am.
Now I have two-dimensional array. Purposely I am taking it odd size, 3 by 2. 3 rows and 2 columns. Now how it is stored in main memory? It is stored like this. These are 3 rows and these are 2 columns. And suppose elements are 11, 22, 33, 44, 55 and 66. What is location or value of I and 0? Zero, 1, 2. These are the values of I. I represent number of rows. J represent number of columns. So position of 0, 0 at location 0, 0. This is 0, 0, 11. This is 0, 1. This is 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0 and 2, 0. But how it is stored in main memory? It is stored in main memory either row major or column major. Row major is one row at a time, and it is stored sequentially. This part is visible. So it is stored like this:
Yes.
11, 22, then 33, 44, 55, and 66. Like this, sequentially, row major, first row, then second row, then third row. Or some machines or hardware may implement column major. This 11, 33, 55. This is column major. 11, 33, 55, first column, and then second column, 22, 44, 66. Normal machines you go for row major. I'll explain you with row major. So this is row major. First row is stored, then next row, then next row, like this. So what we have to do is, again we have to find out the equation to get position of each element. We know the position of 1, 1 is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0, 2, 1. These are the positions, value of I and J. And starting location is again 100, suppose. The location of this is 102, 104, 106, 108 and 110. So if you have width is 2, base address is 100, and I is row index, and j is column index. Can you find the position of A, I, J? Can you write an equation to find out the position or location of ith and jth element? Note that next row will start with first row when first row ends or first column. So you should know number of columns. With this value, suppose I want a position of 11, sorry, 55, 2 and 0. For A of 2, comma 0, I want output as 108. So how to get this output? 2 is number of rows. So I have to multiply 2 with number of columns. We need n, which is number of rows, and n, which is number of columns. We have to skip those many columns. So this is 0. Column index is 0. Row is second. So how many columns I have to skip? I have to skip 2 columns. So this I multiplied by number of columns, n.
Ma'am, it's not visible on right side.
We are trying to get the equation to find position of A of ij. Now suppose A of I is 5, so 2 and j is 0. So I want output as 108. So what we have to do is you have to find out equation where you know number of rows, number of columns, ith index, jth index, starting location of A and width of each element. So can you able to find out the position of each element of an array? As you know, this is second row. So to go for second row, I have to skip those many columns. This is first column, this is second column, number of columns multiplied by row. So number of I is row index multiplied by n, which is number of columns, then multiply it with width. So what is this value? I here is 2, n is 2, and width is 3. 2 into 2 into 2. That is 8. And then t plus. But where is j? Plus j is column index. So if it is 2, 1, so j into w. Now check whether you are getting it for other array elements. Is it visible now? Check whether this equation is correct or not. Base address plus I into n into w plus j into width. Check for this A, for example, for 2, 1. Base address is 100 plus ith index is 2. Number of columns 2, width is 2, plus value of j is 1, and width is 2. So it is 2 into 2 into 2, 8, plus this 2, 10, plus 100. So it is 110. Yes. You can check it for any position, whether you are getting correct location or not, and note down this equation. This is the equation for finding out the location or address of ith and jth element for 2-dimensional array. And for 1-dimensional array, it is simple b plus I into width. B is base address, I is index, and W is width. This is for
Ma'am,
single.
can you repeat the equation?
This one.
This one. Hi. Yes, ma'am.
This is base address, like location, starting location of an array. I is ith index. This is value I and this is j. Row index. N is number of columns. W is width. Width means size of each component. It is called size of each component. For integer, it is 2 bytes. If it is character, 1 byte. If it is float, 4 bytes. You can take array, floating point array, and try to get location of each element. Plus j into w. J is column index and again width. This equation is for row measure. Row measure representation of an array. This is relative address, relative to the starting location. Here we assume that our array is starting from 100. If this value change, these addresses will change accordingly. These are not final addresses or absolute addresses. These are called relative addresses. So in array layout, the layout of an array determines machine address of an element A of I relative to the address of first element. And you can access address of first element with the array name. Array name points to the first location. Layout can occur separately from allocation, which reserves the actual machine address for array element. And note that in a machine, these elements are stored sequentially. After variable allocation, width of each element, that is each element of type T occupies W locations. W is width. So you can access, this is base address. It's nothing but location base. Locus when minus base plus W. So just type here address of A of I. Address of A of I is equal to base address plus I into width. For single dimensional array of I. Okay. Next is efficient address computation. So address of array component can be computed in two parts. First part can be computed as soon as array is declared. So whenever you declare array A of I, it's 10, integer A of I, 10. So that time you can compute address of each element. Now this is for compiler. We are not uh, aware about how these address calculations done, how that elements is accessed from memory, but you should know. We are dealing with front end, but we should know how it is done at the back end so that we can write efficient codes. So by making our small changes in programming can affect a big part at the back end and make our program more efficient. The part that has to be computed at runtime because it depends upon the value of array subscript. For example, in case of Java, you assign number of locations at runtime. For example, just I can create int a op, and at runtime I can say that a is equal to new int op size whatever. So size depend at the runtime. So that part of memory is allocated at runtime. Address A of I depends upon the value of I. Formula for address, you know, it is I into width minus plus base minus I into width. So what I have done is I have simplified this formula. C is base address and I into width. This is for two-dimensional array, row and column. can note down the formula that I have written on a board. Address of A of I and Z element is equal to, what is it? Base plus
I into N into W.
I into N into W plus J into W. See, meaning is same, just it is the matter of simplification. The previous formulas are also correct, but this is more readable. This is for skipping number of columns and this is for skipping number of rows. Then this is how elements are stored in main memory. I just explained you with this. Each element row is stored one after another. It's row major. In column major, it is M11, then M22, M33, M11, M21, M31, and then M12, M22, and M33. You can find out how to calculate or address of Aij in case of column major. So array bounds, you know the meaning of binding, right? Binding of a variable name with its location, binding of a variable name with its value, binding of a variable name with its data type is called binding. And binding happens at multiple times: language design time, translation time, compile time, linking time, loading time. We have also seen static binding and dynamic binding, or early binding or late binding. So if binding happens at static time, if array is bounded to the memory location at compile time, it is called static evaluation or static binding. If you are getting the array locations at runtime, it is called dynamic evaluation or dynamic binding. Array values and initialization, a sequence of values for array element. An array is called static if both layout and allocation are done statically. Note that static word means it's compile time. You know everything at the time of compilation. Compiler know size of each element and the value of each element and the location of each element, and the total location from of A is known at compile time. So it is called static binding. Algol 60 allows array bound to be specified by expression. Means you need to solve this expression and then you'll know the size of an array. A array, if C is less than 0, then 2 else 1. Means it will start from 2 or it will start from 1. So again, depending upon value of C, size of array depends upon this. Why we are taking these examples, you should know what are the characteristics of other languages also, how these constructs are implemented in different languages. So bound of A depends upon value of C. If the value of C is unknown at compile time, then the bound can be computed at compile time. So only variable will be declared. You know that this variable is of type integer array, but how many locations to allocate it is known at runtime. You just allocate at the starting position, and the variable A, whatever the variable A is allocated with the data type, you know, data type is integer and its starting location. But to calculate position of each element, you should know how many elements are there, and that will depend upon value of C, and which is computed at runtime. So if the value will not known until runtime, then array layout and allocations are deferred to runtime and done dynamically. The time of array layout. You are clear about what is array layout? Array layout means the address or allocation of each element of an array. Allocation interact with procedure calls in imperative languages. So if it depends upon function call, then this allocation is also depend upon functions. interact with procedure calls in imperative languages. Any queries about static layout and dynamic layout? Storage allocation for values and variables in procedure or function is done when the function is called. That is when control reach or enter the procedure. So that you know, when you call a function, memory is allocated for the function, that function, and when you come out of the function, memory is deallocated. And this call depends on runtime, how many times you are going to call that particular function. So the variables which are defined in that function are also allocated at runtime. For example, here function is get number, variable is value, begin and end is like opening and closing bracket like in C language. This is the example from Pascal. Value is initialized to 0. Value into 10, just a simple arithmetic expression. Ordinal value of ch. Ch is character variable and you are taking its integer value. Ordinal function is there, which will map that character to its ASCII value. Get ch is get a character from user, and if it is 0 or 9, you will continue, and you will call get num function for this particular value. So this value again depends on runtime. Depending upon this calculation, whatever the user enters the character, for that character this expression will be solved, and then you will get one value. That value you are going to pass to this get num function. So this is how, actually this is the return. It is returning that particular value, this function. Only what you have to remember from this slide is, whenever you call a function, that time memory is allocated for those variables in the function. The variables can be normal variables or array variables. So array layout in C is done statically at compile time. C doesn't use new keyword like Java. So arrays assigned memory locations at runtime. Values can change at runtime, but memory is allocated at compile time. Storage allocation is done upon procedure entry. Whenever a function is called or procedure is called, then storage allocation is done. It is done statically. However, keyword static appears before variable declaration. So if you define a static array, then memory is allocated at compile time. Otherwise, if it is a function, memory for that particular array is allocated at runtime. The keyword static identifies buffer as static array. You should remember the memory allocation that I had explained you. Primary memory is divided into 3 main parts. Static memory and stack or heap memory. Stack is growing towards left hand side and heap is growing towards right hand side. This is heap memory. So when we talk about static, so the keyword static identifies buffer as a static array. So its storage is allocated at compile time. Static memory is allocated at compile time, and stack and heap is allocated at runtime. So at compile time, and its elements retain their values across all procedure calls. As you know what is static means. So whenever for every function call you can get that value. It is not deleted when you come out of the function if the variable is static variable. Storage of array temp is allocated afresh each time control enters the procedure. The element of an array temp lose their values between procedure calls because they can have different locations at different calls. Here, buffer temp is a normal array and buffer is static array. So whenever a procedure is called, the location of buffer or temp will change in each call and the value will also change. But whenever you call buffer procedure function, values of buffer array will be retained and memory location is also fixed till you leave that particular function. In Pascal, there is no concept of static array. Now suppose that when array bounds are computed, layout and allocations are done at the same time. The following are some options for computing array bounds. One is static evaluation. Array bounds are computed at compile time. So you know what is minimum bound and maximum bound. Means starting location is x min and maximum array, that is if array size is 5 then 108. The maximum array bound, the memory which is allocated to lower bound and upper bound. Evaluation upon procedure entry. If array is defined in a function, memory is allocated to that array when you call that particular function. In Algol 60, this is the language Algol 60, A should be capital. Array bounds were computed when control enters into the procedure. So in similar things are happen in C, C++, Java. Whenever you call a function, when you enter into the function, memory is allocated. Dynamic evaluation. In C++, an expression of the form char size can be evaluated at any time. It uses current value of size at runtime to allocate an array of size element. And then it will decide lower bound and upper bound, that is size minus 1. This size, if you are accepting size from the user, and then you are creating an array like in Java. So lower bound is always 0 in C, C++, Java, but upper bound depend upon size minus 1. If array is of size 5, so upper bound is 4, that is 5 minus 1. So these are 3 ways to calculate size of each element or array bound. Bound means memory which is allocated to that array. You can initialize, you can assign values to the array while creating the array itself. So array initialization in C language, and array initializer is the sequence of values for array elements. So for initializing an array, it will allocate memory and it will assign the values to each memory location. Note that here we are using curly braces and giving the values. Here size is not defined. So int, point, whatever, 1, 5, 10, 25, 50, 100. It will take size, whatever the size of these elements or total number of elements as a size for this array. Since array bounds are not specified, the size of an array coin is taken from number of elements on right hand side of this assignment operator. So this will be 0 to 5. It has 6 elements. Next, that is, we have seen arrays and enum in today's session. What is a subrange? Have you heard about subrange?
No, ma'am.
Subrange is a subscripting, like in list you are using this L of, suppose you have a list, L is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what is L of 1, 3. So subscript is sub-array, array of an array. Instead of dealing with the complete array, if your array size is so long, like 10,000 elements or say more than that, and you are interested in some part of the array, you can go for subrange. Some languages support this data type subrange. So for an array, you can define a subrange and you can decide the lower bound and upper bound for that subrange. This is available in Python subscripting operation. So it will take the element 2 and 3. So sub range here, this is the sub array of an array. And all operations of sub range are similar to array. When you create a sub range, memory need to be allocated for it. In next lecture, I will talk about sub range, and then we'll start with records or structured elements. I want to give you demonstration of static element or static variable. Why it is called static? Just a quick example. Can you help me to write a factorial function? If n is equal to 0, what you are going to return? Return 0 or 1, factorial of 0,
1.
factorial of 1, I want to call a factorial function for using recursion, else return factorial of n minus 1. Is it correct? N into n
Plus
minus
n.
n into n minus 1. Here, suppose I'm not accepting values from a user, I'll just assign value 3 here, n is equal to 3, and I'll call factorial function. It is equal to fact of 3. And print it. Factorial is factorial of this is n comma n. I hope it should work. Just look here. Look at this stack. This is the stack. Can you see here stack? Stack and heap memory. It is allocated at runtime. And static memory, where this program is stored, the values of variables are stored at static time. So n is 3. It will call fact. See, there is another location for n. Again in a stack. Fact function is called memory is allocated for fact. If n is not equal to 0, it is not equal to 1, so it will call fact again. So again memory is allocated for fact for next value. It is 2. Then it is not 1, it is not 0. So memory is allocated. So this is how stack is used. Main calls fact, fact calls fact, fact calls fact. Now value of n is 1. So what it will return? Return 1. But where it will return? Will it return to main or it will return to this fact? It will return to its calling function. Its calling function is fact with n2. So this value of n, that is 1 into n. So 1 into 1 will be returned to the function. So here it is 2, 3. Can you see value of n is changing? And it is now 6. And you are getting the answer 6. So in each, see here, in each step, this stack is popped out and the memory allocated to that function is deleted or deallocated. This is how the function gets evaluated. Now you can take one variable here. So just a minute. If here I have defined a static variable, static a is equal to 0, and I'm just saying here a plus plus. So note that here I'm not returning value of a. I'm not returning value of a, and a is static variable. Memory is allocated at static time. I have to give here value 0. So let me pass this value. Okay, we'll continue this example in the next lecture. I'll explain you how